All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is General Greene here. Beautiful Singapore booyah. Before we get started, please like and share this video. Beat those algorithms. We're going to discuss this massive censorship reveal from Mark Zuckerberg over at Facebook, and also World War III with Iran, where there's now been not only a declaration of a 48-hour emergency, we saw the attacks over the weekend, but in addition to that, the White House and John Kirby says they will defend Israel at all costs, and they're hoping it doesn't break out into a new all-time regional world war event. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
So our first story today, this came out yesterday, breaking news around the world, extremely significant and revealing the truth that, yes, we already know that socials are censoring free speech, that arguably free speech is an illusion in the United States. And we saw this with the factual disclosure by Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most powerful people on the planet who owns Facebook, now Meta, admitting he was pressured by the Biden-Harris administration to censor the free press, information regarding Hunter Biden's laptop in the 2020 election, which would mean that there was actual physical meddling and pressure from an opposing political party. Think about this for a minute. This means that Trump is right, that yes, the election was in fact rigged. But in addition to that, that they censored real and truthful information regarding the subject we're not allowed to talk about in 2020. That of course not just costs many people their lives, but more importantly their livelihood, their jobs, their ability to have free movement and travel and speech, and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and to exercise free information worldwide. So the first question we have to ask is, why is Mark Zuckerberg disclosing that he's actually in bed with government agencies and the Biden presidency, now regretting, end quote, his involvement with censoring, muting, and shadow banning information that could have been critical to not just your survival, but to the very livelihood of Americana and what makes America at least what it should be, a free country in the first place? Well, there's a couple of reasons why. One, and we'll go down the list, if we gave him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he legitimately made a mistake. Maybe Mark Zuckerberg realizes, yes, he should not have done that he was pressured by the deep state. He regrets it. He's maybe posturing to endorse Donald Trump for the election. CYA, cover his butt, because he thinks that's a growing possibility, and he's just admitting wrongdoing. If that was the case, that would be actually very honorable, and I would commend him for doing that. But is that the realistic choice of the three that I'm about to present to you? Probably not. Two, maybe he's just done with the Democratic Party. Again, as Trump's chances keep increasing, as we see now very public endorsements from people like Elon Musk and others, Mark Zuckerberg is simply just positioning for the new regime. Just like he backed down and obeyed, like Pavlov's lapdog, the Biden and Harris government, is he not doing the same to what probably is going to be the future government, of which Donald Trump will be elected in what many believe could be an upcoming landslide? That is probably an increased possibility of the three options discussed today. Or number three, which is highly likely, he's getting ahead of a bombshell, a whistleblower blowing the whistle on the fact that yes, Mark Zuckerberg had been covering information up, censoring information regarding Hunter Biden's laptop, other critical information that voters would have needed to know in 2020, not to mention shutting the door on what happened in 2020, when it's later come out that, well, a lot of what people were saying was actually true. But for some reason, the government that I guess owns these parties like Zuckerberg and the rest of the oligarchs that they're in bed with didn't want that information out. Essentially wiping out the Constitution and proving again that all freedom is just an illusion. You don't really have it if it's controlled in these digital silos where there's no alternatives and it's all deeply intertwined with the deep state. I mean, for example, many suspect that Facebook was actually started by In-Q-Tel, which was a government-based hedge fund in the early days to release a DARPA-based project of surveillance, but to do it with retail, to get people involved willfully into the NSA's program that makes up the larger social platforms today. So those are three distinct possibilities of why Mark Zuckerberg might be getting ahead of this. I'll also just notate we've seen a really huge, strange rebranding of Mark Zuckerberg in recent years. His involvement with the UFC, in the fighting championship leagues, even his dress, instead of looking like Caesar, he's grown his hair out all puffy. He's getting in shape, doing his MMA training. I mean, it kind of looks like one big PR stunt over the last couple of years to rebrand the platform as somehow friendly to Americans when they haven't really been that friendly, according to him. Again, this is what he's saying. It's his own letter from Meta that he just penned yesterday, saying he deeply regrets censoring Americans and covering up critical information that could have been prudent for you to know, not just during the last election process, but also during the critical time of your survival when free speech actually counts. During a national emergency and lockdowns. I mean, that's the only point of actually having free speech is during a crisis. Not when things are free or good, or things are just hunky-dory and you're sucking lollipops and chocolate-covered chocolate bars. It's during war. It's during panics. It's during things that are spreading virulently, allegedly. It's during world wars. And I beg the question, if he's complied once, why wouldn't he do it again? I mean, he already showed us his true colors. I do want to commend Mark Zuckerberg, though. He has officially given us a blue check mark on Facebook. So that's a huge win for the AMTV platform, which I do thank him for that. And, if we're giving him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he just made a mistake. But I'll let you decide what you think. Are these socials to be trusted? If someone would kowtow once, will they not kowtow again, no matter who the government agency is or who, in fact, the presidential party might be at that given time of history, Republican versus Democrat, or is there something more sinister going on here? Our second story of the day is growing alarm in not just Israel, but the war and threat of a larger boiling over regional conflict, which can only be described as World War III with Iran. It's interesting that General Wesley Clark told us this decades ago, which I reported on. He said that the final target in the Middle East was not just Iraq and Afghanistan, as we saw all of those wars and many be left in failure. It was the case with withdrawal of Afghanistan. But he said the final target would always be Iran. And yet here we are in 2024, and we have John Kirby from the White House spokesperson saying that, hey, we really don't want this to break out into a regional war because it'll be World War III and we'll defend Israel at all costs. So we've got an ongoing humanitarian crisis, millions of Palestinians that are now starving without food and water, terrible events that happened that we saw on October 7th, of course, and many people believing that the Benjamin Netanyahu government actually stood down, which is actually my personal belief. I think they wanted it to happen, just like September 9/11. I mean, it gives them reason to go clear out the area, level Gaza, rebuild it, install a couple Starbucks and Mickey D's, get a little beachfront access real estate. That's actually what my opinion is. It just seems all too convenient that now we're at world war. At the same time, another prediction that we had on this channel is that the Ukraine proxy war would not only result in Vladimir Putin's invasion, and that's a fighter jet, by the way, right behind me. Can I get a like for that? That's a freaking Singaporean fighter jet right there, baby. There's two of them, baby. Dose! We got dose freaking fighter jets right now, baby. So please like and share. But not only did I predict the war was coming, isn't that so apropos? But in addition to that, Ukraine would be the proxy for the World War III that would start with Russia, but then later involve China. That would involve China, the BRICS nations, and later what I believe would be an imminent fourth, fifth generation warfare attack on Taiwan to go after the semiconductors and the juice that makes up artificial intelligence and this new technology that is fighting the warfare. For many of you that don't already know, our elite aircraft aren't even flown. The top secret dark projects, for example, aren't even flown by human beings. As Eric Schmidt reveals, who I've met with several times before, we're more in an information war and an AI war where at the nanosecond click of a button, we could be in a situation of doomsday or nuclear blast as a new fighter jet flies by me right now. Maybe war, there's two of them again. Maybe war starting right now. So again, in a technological battlefield, one that's being fought by drones released into the sky that could be launched on target populations like we're seeing in Ukraine, launched on every American city, Los Angeles, New York, etc. Are human beings as much of a factor as they once were to fly some of those historical jets that you just saw pass behind me? Probably not. But here's what gives us a sense of urgency that I think we should all be sharing around the world right now. Is Vladimir Putin just warned that because of the aggressive attacks that the United States and the West and Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky is sending into the heart of Mother Russia territory, we're at very grave risk of a nuclear and world war event very soon. So these are, huge breaking stories, two in themselves. We could just do entire videos on, but I think the takeaway is that it proves, number one, that it validates what we've been doing here on the channel for nearly 20 years. Since 2008 and 09 with the megaphone telling you that, hey, freedom of speech is actually an illusion unless you protect it. That if we give these corporations and multinational oligarchs that are deeply embedded with the three-letter agencies too much power, you were going to lose everything by death by 1,000 cuts. Not only would you not have freedom anymore and the Constitution and Bill of Rights would be eviscerated, but you would move to totalitarianism and a dictatorial situation that we'd always feared. Fear of overt power from a king that taxed us unfairly without any kind of recourse, which I think is what we have now in the United States. We see with Kamala Harris, for example, her intent to tax unrealized capital gains, which is insane. I don't even know how you mark something like that to market. Unrealized gains and housing or crypto. I mean, how would you even do that? What if you owned a meme coin, it went from $10,000 to $1 million, and then you suddenly owned $500,000 in taxes, but the liquidity pool was only $300K? I mean, it's crazy to think how they could even logistically accomplish that from an accounting perspective. Not to mention that they are also, as more jets fly behind me, for crying out loud, this must be World War III. But in addition to that, raising the tax rate to like 45%, give or take a couple of points. What's clear at the end of the day is not only are these two stories extremely significant, but we know the direction that we're headed. As governments print new debt, create more currency, cut rates, liquefy the market, create more easy money and bailouts like we saw with TARP in 2008 and 09, and during the lockdowns in 2020, it only assures one thing: that fiat currency will continue to decline, hyperinflation will continue like we're seeing with housing, and your number one move is to get out of the freaking banks now before they collapse. Your number one move is to get into real assets like Bitcoin and Island Project by clicking the link below and buying your first 30 units. Owning a physical asset with no bank debt outside of the banks that's protected with actual cash flows, large capital gains potential, see our terms and disclaimers, and intent to tokenize, and also being tokenized on our multi-billion-dollar blockchain. In fact, I'll be speaking with Conrad and Astrid, two of our Singaporean amazing investors here, a little bit later today. I'll be having tea with them, and we'll be discussing not only their investment, they have an amazing 50 units with us, probably coming in with more, but just talking about the things we're not allowed to talk about online. Unifying by numbers and basically creating, and have already done this, an amazing community of freedom fighters that actually are standing up, fighting for their rights, making world-class investments, changing their lives and changing the world. Because again, just like America was an idea with the establishment of the 13 colonies, so is Island Project. It's the new founding fathers of decentralization. Beach and oceanfront homes, primarily owned in Maui and Hawaii. Our new ski lodge we just purchased for $6 million in Park City, Utah with no bank debt. And now our international diversification as we travel all throughout Southeast Asia. My favorite spot so far was probably Bali, to be honest. Absolutely loved it. The weather was incredible. People were amazing. And I would say a close second would be Thailand, which I love. There's amazing real estate. We've got some huge acquisitions and active negotiations now. And of course allows all of our Australian investors and New Zealand investors in this part of the world, Singapore included, to get to those locations much easier. For those of you based on the East Coast, Park City, Utah, come ski with us this year, see our tiers, and contact my dad at 808-442-2934 to get in. Is a lot easier to get to from places like New York and New Jersey and the East Coast, which we have a lot of numerous investors into islandproject.com. Because again, the trend is your friend. We know what happens next. We understand that we're at world war. We're in technological war. We understand that currencies are declining in value, that fiat isn't worth what it once was. We see the Telegram founder, for example, confiscated himself physically, proving the point of how important it is to get your money out of the banks get it into private physical assets you control, then tokenize them on a blockchain so no one else has access to it without your private keys, which is exactly what islandproject.com has designed. Because again, we thought about this long in advance with our business plan many years ago as I constructed it with my team and my father. We realized that the future of money and technology was the really only hope for freedom and liberty and prosperity. Not only to take your freedom back, but to make those large 1000x gains, but also to save the United States of America, our Constitution and freedom. By being the digital cowboys of the modern era, just like we conquered the West and found gold and discovered oil, and much like we saw the pioneers in the early days set sail, taking a lot of risk to go settle in a place called the USA that was a lot more free than that tyrannical kingship back in England. So I just encourage you, understand that we know where things are going and that your actions, your mindset, and your physical investments actually do really matter. Not only is it a sense of self-defense and protection as we enter the storm ahead in digital Noah's Ark fashion, but it's also how you're going to pivot, leverage, and profit along with us. Again, a simple 30x will make you a millionaire in our world-class project. We accept crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Jesus Coin, whole host of other cryptocurrencies. Talk to my father, and our official website at islandproject.com, and of course ACH wire transfer, credit, and debit card. We can also help you roll over and self-direct your IRAs and retirement accounts in our #1 real estate asset class in the world. What you're going to want to do now before things get really dicey and we see they lift Trump in and I think are positioning for the ultimate of all 1929 stock market crashes and World War events that they'll eventually blame on him. Because trust the plan. The two-party system, well, it's kind of fake according to most people. It's kind of like a wolf throwing out a puppet like he's a sheep, promising he's going to go vegetarian. We know the truth. Just like Mark Zuckerberg says, well, he's sorry he implemented the tyranny and kowtowed and destroyed your rights, and that he's hoping he won't do it again. My question is, and we pray for him, is can these people be trusted? And I think you know the answer. Again, I've been doing this a very long time, ladies and gentlemen. I've dedicated my life to truth and freedom and liberty. We've done it with our own physical actions, declaring 1776 2 years ago on July 4th, establishing islandproject.com, raising $33.5 million successfully, and now deploying it worldwide. Because the man with the solution, just like Noah, commanded by God, is where the answers are. Not only for your own life, but your prosperity, your success, your self-defense, and ultimately your vigilance and your preparations. So please like and share this video. It is an honor, and I'm praying for all of you tuning in. Click that link below right now and come join us. Come see us in Singapore, booyah. Come see us in Thailand and Bali, booyah, and Maui and Oahu, and come ski with us in Park City, Deer Valley, Utah this year. And get your head out of the sand and take action now. Because Jesus Christ is King, and this is his plan. And we're winning along with all of you and our extraordinary subscribers tuned in all around the world. It is an honor, and stay tuned for the next video. Like and share. If you have any text questions, voicemails, call my dad at 808-442-2934, and then just onboard by filling out a 3-minute application on islandproject.com. You can secure your investment right now and become an amazing member like Conrad and Astrid that I'm meeting later today in Singapore. God bless.
Fill out a membership application today. Get rolling with us, the good guys, the winners. Get out of cash. It's trash. Go 1000x.